Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and this podcast is a podcast that explores the intersection between art, culture, truth, creativity, all of those great things. And today I am in conversation. I'm thrilled to be in conversation. We've been trying to make this happen with illustrator, graphic designer, creative consultant, and author based out of the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. Please welcome Sean Fahie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey. What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me, Rob, man. Much appreciated. Thank you for reading.
100%. Happy to have you on. And it's always good to sort of connect and kind of broaden and continue this conversation. And I look at these interviews as like an ongoing conversation. So it really is a pleasure to bring on folks that, you get to know that is like, oh, let's chat it up. Let's learn a little bit more about the story. So with regard to that, I want to start off by asking that introductory, that simple question. Some people lose their minds like, look, man, I want to talk about myself. So tell us about you, your story, and some of your early creative interests.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. For your audience, and I've mentioned before, I'm from St. Croix, USVI. Grew up there as a youth and then moved to the States in like 89 after Hugo. And I've been in the States ever since. I would, go back home to visit here and there. But I went to arts high school and then I went to arts college. I've honestly always been interested in art in some form or fashion since I was a kid. And I've just been lucky enough to keep going at it despite me being like, I suck sometimes. But the gift of that is that's how life works in most things. You just really just keep going. You know what I mean? And I've been fortunate enough to kind of put together a little light career. There's the ups and downs of it, but I'm still here and I'm still blessed to be doing what I love. Yeah, honestly.
That's great to hear. And, and thank you for unpacking that a little bit for us and just the sort of appetizer before we get into the deeper questions. And I'll say when it comes to some of those sorts of ups and downs, I think you really hit the nail on the head there of, sort of perseverance and still doing it and being fortunate enough to continue doing it and having that space to be courageous, to be I think it takes courage to create. It takes courage to try to pursue art and art lifestyle. Yeah.
And I always say this, I've been blessed with a really good community of like-minded creatives as well that I was able to come up with. So, at the time when I first moved to Atlanta, it was just a lot of us that were broke creatives just exploring, our creativity, ourselves as human beings. But we also had one another to kind of talk shop, have ideas. And I'm a big proponent of, finding those people. We can curse on here or not. I don't want to find those people that mess with you and you mess with them. You know what I mean? And it's very important because it definitely helps you in those mental downtimes, if anything. You know what I mean? Money comes and goes, but it's really how you look at yourself and the world around you that keeps you really motivated. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I agree. I hear these different things as this podcast has grown and people seem to like it and enjoy it and get something out of it. And, I was recently, at dinner with some friends. They were my partner and I was there with one of my contacts, one of my friends I've met through doing this. And we went out for dinner, just kind of kicking it. And we went to one of my good friends' restaurants and we had the chef table and I have an official drink on the menu. So when that thing slid out, they were like, hold up, the world famous Rob Lee. I was like, it's just a title. It's fine.
Something like that.
It's like this old thing. Don't worry about that. It's fine. It's just 3 ingredients. It's delicious, I don't have a couple myself, but that's the type of exchange, access, and really building out that that appreciation and adoration that you have with other people who are doing interesting work, whether it's in the food services industry or whether it's in, as far as like being a chef, being a person that designs a menu and designs that. There's love in that. Or someone who is in this sort of administrative side and supporting like arts through that of like, how do we raise money? How do we find, grants? How do we make space for people? And that in many instances that look like you and I that have to go through other hurdles, right? That, I was talking to my partner and I was like, I wish this was easier. And she was like, it's not going to be easier. She's like, look at what you are doing. She's like, you're this, and then you're talking to people who are in the fringes who are doing really interesting work, but they didn't, kiss the ring of a gatekeeper yet. And I was just like, you got to
no, for real. So I was talking to a friend recently. We were at a bar having a drink, and he was like, all right, what's the plans for 2023? And I was like, listen, I want to do more of what I'm doing on a higher scale, right? And he goes, well, how do you make that happen? And I'm like, yo, I've been thinking about trying to find a creative agent. And I know a lot of my friends with agents, their career doubles up, the pricing doubles up, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, maybe that's something I can look into. And I've been looking into it. So if there's anybody out there listening that wants to, email me. But he goes, yo, agent's cool. And he has an agent for what he does. He's like, yo, agent's cool. But what you really want, though, is an advocate. Advocates of your work that wants to help you get you money as well. Because you can have one agent or you can have multiple advocates that are in industries that want to utilize your design work or illustration work and really dig you and pass you the bag. And I went, yeah, that's you might be onto something there. I was like, but you also have an agent. He was like, yeah, get one. But also,
it's the village thing. It's like, having that sort of team and definitely, having that sort of having those advocates rather has been really helpful. Like there are people who, going back to it where you'll hear like the fine words, like you were touching on people that rock with you, people that mess with you. And, I think the advocates are in that same sort of spot. It's just, what sort of access and influence and how can they, you still want to do your work. You still want it to be hard and all of that stuff and challenging and interesting. But some of the things that are sort of like outside of your work, you know what I mean? Some of the administrative stuff and all of that, that's the main support. And that's the area where you want that ease to happen. You like, I want to get past that so I can get to the part that actually is the real work.
Exactly. That way you can focus on the things that you're good at. You know what I mean? If you can delegate as much as possible, the things that don't clutter your mind and stop the creative flow from going, that's really kind of the route you would like to be on.
Absolutely. So I want to touch on design and sort of like, leading up to it, the Sean Fahie origins, if you will. How did you become like interested in pursuing a career in arts? Like what led you to study like graphic design and illustration? What led you to SCAD?
So from high school, this might be a medium story. From high school, I had several friends from my high school apply to SCAD. I wasn't even aware of it. We were all in art classes together. And one of my teachers was like, yeah, you should apply, see what happens. I was applying to like Morehouse and different schools, but I was like, I just kind of want to make art. And I fortunately got in. And from there, I went to SCAD originally for sequential art, comic books. I wanted to draw comics. And then I quickly realized I don't like doing that much drawing. I was like, there's got to be a way to blend still being able to draw and then like, kind of taking a break from it. And graphic design just kind of made sense. And in the idea of like, having your parents in your ears, like, you're going to need a job after you're done here. It's like, yeah, I guess I can do more with graphic design. So I went and did my undergrad for graphic design. And after I was done, I actually was like, damn, I do miss illustrating. Because you don't do as much illustration as you thought you would in design. And so I was like, I'm going to go back, see if I can do my MA with illustration. And then I went back did that, and I kind of blended two. And ironically, after I graduated, there's like an illustrative design department now, and that's kind of what I've been trying to lend my work into. I was like, well, I could have just did that, but hey, everything happens for a reason. So yeah.
Sometimes you're a little ahead of it. You know what I mean? It's like, you guys will catch up a little bit later. I'm already going to be doing this. And yeah, I talk to folks. I talk to folks when it comes to like, funding conversations or how people view things, just to kind of get a sense of, I'm talking to artists and they're saying, yo, what you're doing is art, it's this, it's that, it's journalism, it's all of these different things. It's even anthropology. I've heard that. And then when you talk to like people in the advocacy sort of lane at times, I don't know if we're really there yet. I don't know if we can get to that spot. And I'm like, oh, I'm just already past y'all. I was like, when y'all catch up, I'll be here. We can talk about it. We can figure out what it looks like. And it doesn't stop the train from going. It doesn't stop me from doing that work. And going back to one of the things you said, I, early on, some of those sort of introductory stories, I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was younger. So, definitely a thing. And I did my first comic, and it's a lot of work, obviously. Just, you're kind of just a kid and you're figuring things out. I was like in middle school. And I'm like, well, this is what I want to see. The story had it had nothing. I was like, these are just cool drawings. There's no story here at all. But I had a teacher who was like, I was in class and I would always be one of these guys that's drawing, and I would hurry but do my test, get my B, take that B. I could have got an A, but I would just rush through it so I could draw. And I remember she took one of my drawings and I got so tight. So when I was working on this comic, and I was like, yo, she takes my papers, we're going to have some issues. We're going to have some real issues in here.
We're going to have problems.
And she saw it and she was like, did you do this all by yourself? I was like, yeah. I mean, I did the pencil, the color pencil, the ink, all of that. And she was like, let me bind this for you. And like, she did the lamination on. She's like, let me protect this for you as well. And she told all of the other teachers, like, hey, and there was an opportunity, I believe, that came out of that for me to, like, in a sense, audition for the School of the Arts here in Baltimore. And it didn't work out ultimately because I really was into comics. So it's like, I'm going to draw this. I'm going to draw Wolverine. I was selling pictures of Wolverine, by the way. Always art and business. Art and business.
Yeah.
No licensing.
Yeah.
So definitely, I relate when you realize, like, there's a lot of work here. Maybe I'm going to bump to something else, and also having that sort of critique component to it. And, I always had an interest if I could do a lot of this and have an alternative sort of approach. And so, wanted to write stories, wanted to record stories and things of that nature, and record sort of these interesting conversations, which in many respects laid the foundations for what I would ultimately do as a podcaster. And that's why it's always, I think, important to really look at some of the sort of where our history is at as far as like our creative journey, and like where we go, and some of those stops on the way to maybe the current destination, how some of those like stops along the way maybe contribute to it, maybe in the thinking, maybe in some of the work.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like when I used to live in Savannah, I used to own like a very small skateboarding company, right?
Yeah.
Streetwear was very heavy. I was very, very deep into skateboarding. And I was like, oh, skateboard company, I can do apparel. It'll allow me to put my illustrations on shirts and skateboard, you know what I mean? And I quickly found out that I don't want to run a business.
See? Yeah. It's just like, I want to do the fun stuff.
Yeah. And, a much younger mindset. Like currently with no ego, I am the business now. You know what I mean? As a freelance contract illustrator, I am the business, but I didn't want to do payroll and I didn't want to do all that. Like I can handle but so much. And I know what my plane can handle, basically. You know what I mean? Like I'm a seaplane. I can have an intern here maybe, but you know what I mean? It's like I try to streamline my life for as much peace of mind as I possibly can have, so that I can do the best work for the client and or myself. You know what I mean? So
100%. So you have an extensive experience, and I think in talking about kind of where we're at and touching on the skateboard and streetwear brand and kind of combining some of those things. it's, something you revisit. It's like, I'm doing this to kind of help me in this. This might be a side project to really get my work out there. Like, you hear about people who are like, I'm going to produce, but I really want to rap. I really want to rap. I'm going to sell y'all some of these beats. Maybe we can get a few features, a little barter. So having sort of that background in like, print media, illustration, branding, marketing, apparel design, tell me about some of your like favorite projects, like maybe one or two that come to mind that have a focus on a multitude of different disciplines.
Ooh, favorite projects. Fortunately, I have my website pulled up right next to honestly, I will say this. I've been able to work with a lot of really dope brands and or startup businesses in the way where I am currently in my career, people hire me to do what they know I can do. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, you know how you get like a client is like, oh, we want to hire you to do this thing. And it's like, all right, bet. And you do your thing. And they're like, actually, we wanted you to do what this person does, but we wanted to get you to do it. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like currently the work I get, people respect the work I do. So I get to just kind of be me. So I'm blessed in that way, where that client work, I enjoy a lot of the work I get. You know what I mean? I will say, I guess two of my favorite projects was with Yes and Agency, agency out in DC. And that's where I was on a team that got a silver Addy for the illustration, Georgia Power commercial. Mm-hmm. And I got to do the illustrations that turned into motion, graphics. And then the second one was I did a brand partnership with Crown Royal where they were highlighting artists, and I got to be one of the artists highlighted. And that was just ill because in all honesty, I got to creative direct. They were like, hey, we want to show your work. It was a nationwide project. I literally just had to do an illustration. I had to film a little, what are those things called? A little bio kind of thing. Yeah. But I got to creative direct. I got to hire out my homies to like film and edit. So it was just one of those things that I got to utilize the full force of my abilities. Yeah. So those two really stand out. Aside from all my book projects, writing all the books are always fun too. But but that we'll get to that, I guess.
Yeah. And it's almost like creating this sort of micro economy too, where it's just like, people throw around ecosystem so much, but it's almost that, like, you're in this lane, you do your thing, and then obviously, and you touched on it, and I think it's really important to be in the community and be in the presence of other creatives. So when an opportunity like comes like that, you're like, oh, I know a guy, or hey, bro, would you be interested in doing this? And that's my natural thing. It's like if you're a basketball guy, it's almost like I'm a point guard. I'm a pass first point guard. That's the way I approach it.
Exactly. I don't mind passing. Yo, here, take the rock. Like, we gonna get these points.
Yeah. And because I only mess around with scores, it's like I always got shooters around me. It's like out here.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great analogy.
I mean, I try. I got a few of them here and there. So, being multidisciplinary, you touched on the books a moment ago, like, having, various medias, right? Like, there's stop motion. So you're in sort of the video and in the animation lane, you're, obviously doing a graphic design, you're doing, media and sort of book space as well. Like, talk about, more about like collaboration and cross-disciplinary work and how that works within your creative process. Like, when you're doing some of this quote creative direction, right? Or if you're working on a book, like, do you like sit there and have like a chat with like a trusted circle of folks that's like, yo, I want to do this. I'm thinking of this. What do you guys think? And then kind of figuring out who would be a good fit in there to support, ultimately the vision. Talk about that. And maybe if you want to focus it in a book so we can kind of get that in there, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. That's, you described it perfectly. I'm fortunate, again, as I mentioned earlier, to be around a lot of really dope creatives that I can call close friends. Yeah. And I'll have certain projects, especially like early on, like I didn't have any money to pay, like, but they believed in me and I believed in their work. And they were like, I tell this story often, like with the first book, when I realized that I might be having a book deal, me and a friend of mine were out. His name's Vec, amazing designer, photographer, but we were out at a party and I was like, yo, I think I'm getting a book deal. And I was like, I already have the title for the book. He like, what, for real? I was like, yeah. I was like, what's the first book called? Things About Women and Other Short Stories I Seem to Forget. Yeah. And he was like, that's an interesting title. I was like, yeah, I think it might do something. And he goes, all right, cool. I'll be back. He just leaves the party. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I guess I'll see him later. 2 days later, he designed the book cover. Like he texted me this. He texted me, he goes, check your email. I was like, bet. And he designed. From there, I was like, oh man, I know my friends believe in me. Yeah. Two, this shit is real now. Like I can't bullshit it anymore. It's like the cover is here. I got the idea. Now I have to make it happen. Just because I don't even want to disappoint my friend who made an amazing book cover for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's just an example where there's so many people that in my life have been instrumental in just being so caring and helpful with their time, because that's the most important commodity. You know what I mean? Like especially when you're with a community of creators, like everybody's got their shit to do. Yep. But when people take the time to really believe in what you're doing as well, it's like that's beautiful, you know. And I try to make sure I pass it forward. Like and I should say I don't do stop motion. I just pure illustrator, and for that project they transferred it over. But I have a lot of friends that do videography and photography, and I'm every once in a while I'm like, hey, I know somebody perfect for that, or I'll do a project, and like I did a talk last November, and I was just doing an artist talk in the way where, hey, I just want to bring the community together, and we actually just have a honest talk about creativity and being a creative and freelancing, and like, are you broke right now? How are you feeling mentally? And a young lady named Bree DMs me because I did the flyer, put it out. She was like, is anybody filming this? I was like, nah, I was bringing people together. She was like, would you mind if I came through and filmed? I was like, I don't have anybody to pay. She's like, nah, I just want to be there to hear this talk, and I would love to lend my services to you. And I was like, yo, I really appreciate it. She did an amazing job. And now whenever I have a project that involves like a videographer, I know to be like, yo, I'm hitting Bree up. You know what I mean? Like she came, showed, and proved, and really did her thing. And that's just another example of like, if you build it, they will come, you know?
Right. No, that's dope. And I've pitched this sort of idea to folks before, and I have a second point to that question, or a modified question that relates to that. But I was talking with folks, and it's like, yeah, whoever I've worked with, it's like, if I have a personal or more of a second tier sort of relationship with someone, not that I'm aware of them, but it's like I know of their work, and if they're like available, it's like, look, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So if there are more opportunities that present themselves, and we can work together based on your work quality and whether I can access to really, get a sense of what is your work about, and like what is your process and all of that stuff, and how do you go about your work, then yeah, it's almost like that referral. When I go to like, hey, I need a person that does this because of all of the different people I talk to, I'm going to go to who's at the top of my mind, who I've talked to recently, who I've been following their work. And it's like, okay, you're just getting your stuff in. And I think the same thing applies for me, where there are folks that I've met in different pockets that I'm trying to stretch, like you were touching on doing creative direction earlier. That's an area I want to get into. And I've been trying to stretch to do more moderations, kind of stepping from behind the glass screen of fear, I call this computer screen, and being more out there. And people see it, and it's like, okay, he's got something. We need somebody to moderate this panel or what have you. He knows how to talk. He's on time. He's available. ... And you're able to reach a different audience, and that's access. That's the thing that really. That's the rewarding thing to me: access, collaboration, because you touched on it. Money's going to come and go, and you might get funding to do a cool project, and it's like, that's great. But the thing that sets you aside is this sort of continued desire to keep doing it. Some people will get that big nut and it's like, wow, I just got $100,000, 200, I got $1 million, whatever. Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. And then the work gets mid or just stops. I want to be mid. I want to be mid on my own. You know what I mean? If I choose to be mid.
I'm crazy in that way where it's like, yo, you give me $100 grand. Listen, I'm from the rap era. You give me $100 grand, I'm gonna flip that to 300 grand. Like, I don't give me access to money to actually utilize my fucking mind and make dreams come true and pay friends and shit.
Yeah.
You got a dangerous man over here if you do that. Like, you know what I mean? In a positive way. Like, I'm gonna make shit happen.
and the thing is, it's like you only need that. That's all you need sometimes is just whatever that accelerant is to start that sort of creative fire. That's really what it is. It's like you're all doing your different things as you touched on it. You know, our time is very important. And I'm always very appreciative of when people want to spend time chatting with me. And I hope that there's something that they get out of having the conversation. Maybe it enables them to think about how they go about their work in a different way. And I know I've had some folks who are like, damn, I realized I'm an artist by talking to Rob. I knew I always was creative, but now I realize I'm more of an artist than, you know, I gave myself credit for in the past. And that's what it is. And I try to be respectful of folks' time and, you know, just preparing, having questions, making sure things kind of work. And, you know, not everybody does that. So that's I think that's a really important thing. And to me, it's honesty. Like, if, you know, we could try to like struggle through a conversation and then it doesn't go anywhere, or we could try to like say, maybe we come back in a few months, you know, when you're working on something that's active, we could talk about that. So in that respect of being like artist and having sort of these like honest conversations around creativity, do you think there are aspects of your journey as a creative and as an artist, as a person working on a creative pursuit that non-creatives may find difficult to understand? Like, they're not going to get it, you know, for sake of argument. If so, could you share and provide some insight and share your perspective on these aspects and these experiences that non-creatives, non-artists won't really get, that you and your circle have to engage in?
The first thing that comes to mind is this never stops. Like,
100%.
As a freelancer, it does it. Like, as a freelancer, you know, there's that meme is like, you started your business, you quit your job thinking you weren't going to be working all the time, and now you work 24 hours in a day because, you know, you're running a business. It's kind of similar to that. But yeah, man, honestly, it's like we don't get company Christmas parties and shit. Like, we have to work. It's the hunt. If you don't hunt, you don't eat. You know what I mean? And I can even say this personally, like, there's just been times where my finances was just messed up. And, you know, I've missed friends' weddings and stuff like that just because of timing and finances. But I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be in the house working on this in hopes that it, you know, garners some looks that garners a client. So, you know, it's stuff like that where it really, it's a never ending struggle. But I'm just weird and I like solving problems, and
Same.
life is the biggest problem. And I'm like, yo, if people before me did this, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm fortunate enough where I have, and I got to speak primarily to like Black creative men who really are doing it in a major way. Where I remember before I moved to Atlanta, and first in Atlanta, looking up Complex top 25 best designers, top 25 illustrators, and never seeing people of color, or rarely seeing a person of color or one Asian person. And you know what I mean? And I was like, I know I had this confidence because of rap music. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, rap music, I've seen heroes and whatnot. But I was like, creatively, where are those Black men at, or Black people in general, I ain't gonna lie, Black women too, like where are they at? And as I've been getting older and more into it and having the people around me, it's really one of those things where it's just like, oh, wait, we can do this. Oh, it is possible. All right, let me just keep going. Sorry, I can't go out tonight. Love you guys. I don't think you're gonna understand, but I'd rather be in my house than outside, you know, chilling. I gotta do this. If I don't do this, I don't get to go where I'm trying to go in life.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we we look at these different things. We get caught on social media, and I think you hear these different things. I think one of the things that I learned earlier, when you're really doing the thing, when people talk about, oh, art and business, there's the two separate buckets. No, they're not.
Nope.
I think when you're really doing it, your comparison earlier about it's 24 hours. I was joking with someone the other day. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I got to write down this question. I'm not sure, like if I was in this client relationship, if I am the client to myself, I got to charge myself for that time. And I'm always working. Everything is built into it in a true sense, not like lawyers. You know what I mean? Where it's like, well, it took me 3 hours to write this. It's like you use Chat GPT and then it spit out. Let's be honest here. Let's keep it funky. So, but my thing is, it's like you're always. I like to look at it like this. Creatively, you're always on call. That's the way I like to look at it. You got these high focus tasks. You might be working on it. Like I'm in the middle of a podcast right now. So I can't and I shouldn't be thinking about what's the next podcast going to look like. My time is dedicated in this area and my focus is dedicated in this area. Now, later in the day, I could be eating like some noodles or something. And I'm like, yo, so these questions, and when I talk to Sean, how am I going to edit that? What's that going to look like? So I'm always putting sort of this creative energy and in my capacity towards that. And that's like a business that's operating nonstop. That's a 24-hour business. And I think that's where, I think you're right.
Yeah. I would add one more thing. And this is for all freelancers that people don't know. Why does it cost this much?
Right.
Hey, listen, you were paying for the years that got us here. The reason why you reached out. And personally speaking, I normally don't charge any more than fair market value, but it also depends on the client and what the project is. Let me not stunt my growth here. I mean, like I am a little above average pricing, though. I can say that. But and again, that depends on the project and the client. Mm-hmm. But when people ask, why does it cost that much? It's like, yo, listen, you don't understand how long it took that individual and or that agency to get to where they are for them to be that good, for you to recognize them. Is why you need to pay.
When you're looking at like clients that you want to work with, projects you want to work on, what is like that one trait, that unifying trait that sticks out? Because I was going through this book and it was talking about like instances where, people will tell you should never work for free. I think we have this habit of we take part of it and we kind of eliminate culture in a sense. We'll take part of a thing, of a saying like jack of all trades, master of none. And that's a longer quote there, right? And
100%.
We'll take a piece of it. And then now that's the actual quote. And this idea of you should never work for free. While I think people should be paid for what they do or what have you, but there are instances where you're like, all right, how does this, maybe it's the connection, maybe it's the client, maybe it's the opportunity to really stretch. Those are some instances where your idea of free is a little different or what have you. And then when it comes to those sort of client relationships where I don't like when actors talk about, I don't know, audition anymore. It's like, I don't need to audition, So when you're looking at that sort of client or projects that bring you in, what is that like that main trait that's you're saying, I'm going to put my time towards this project?
Even to touch on that. So even with working for free for some projects, I have to believe in the project, especially if it's me working for free. You know what I mean? Like I truly believe in what this project is, and I would love to see it out in the world. And so if I can lend my time, that's cool. Because I don't disagree with working for free if it's a means to an end. And that way, whereas you're helping somebody, or this is helping you build with a community, or you're just being able to meet people in a way that would give you access, as you mentioned earlier, which is a very important thing, access in a way that you would never have access before. And I believe that is very good for the beginning stages of your career. Now, I do think once you get to a point in your career, that working for free should lessen tremendously. But as I mentioned to the question, I will definitely work on a project if I truly believe in it and I see it's not some bullshit. Yeah. If you need my help, I can help. But like I had a friend text me the other day about doing something. I was like, listen, let me just get this out there. Is it paying? And is it for you? Either way, because you asked, I don't mind helping. But if there's a check there, I'm not just gonna leave it on the table.
Yeah, because and the thing, and again, it goes to the thing. Like I've been doing this. I've been doing this for 14 years, right? And you get to the spot where you're like, all right, people will say overnight success. That's like, all right, cool. Look at the timing on this particular project. The first one was in 2019, so even there, it's not an overnight sort of thing. And it was a lot of work that got to even that point. It was 10 years of work to even got to that point, to even be able to string together a conversation and to have a sense of, all right, what is the angle I'm going for, and all of this sort of different stuff.
Coming in and out.
So ultimately, what I'm getting at is, so ultimately what I'm getting at is, I think, it's sorting through like, all right, what is that conversation looking like? As you touched on, is there money associated? I've had so many instances with folks that'll say, so what is your budget? And thinks the conversation stops there. And I've heard wild and outrageous numbers at times. And I'm like, oh, this is a money grab for you. I've had conversations with folks, and I'm like, I don't know if you're really interested in this project. That's the thing that turns around on the other side. And it's just like, I don't know if there's a fit there. And it's not a matter of being cheap or being, not interested in a person's work, but what you have for your brand and what you're looking collaboratively for.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah. You can tell when somebody's just showing up for the check. You know what I mean? Which I get. I mean, sometimes that person could just really be in a fix and needs check. But to what you're saying is like, especially if you're putting the project on, it's like, you want the person you're working with to believe in the thing that you're doing as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or at least have an interest so they don't screw around and make the project look like crap.
It's really funny. So I got one last question for you as it relates to, since you're coming from Atlanta in this conversation. I'll say, what are like 2 to 3 things that specifically define like the artistic, the creative culture in Atlanta, in the circles that you're in? What are some of those things that come to mind for you?
Okay. Well, I can say this definitely, and I keep mentioning it, and this is kind of like for my era. There's a younger crop coming out, and I don't know particularly how they're moving, but I know for the people that I came around, community was, again, one of the major things, and being able to like throw house parties and not realizing those house parties were just us communing and building ideas, or throwing art shows, just guerrilla style, taking over a building, but having people really come through and like, oh, you need a bartender? Oh, you need the bar? Like, and like, that's one thing I've always appreciated about my time in this city, and being fortunate enough to integrate into it. And I came to Atlanta as a rapper. I used to skate, and then all the art stuff, right? And those 3 alone, if we're talking creatives, all of those hold all the creatives. So I would be at a skate event. There's a videographer there, a photographer there. And all the skaters are usually musicians, or, whatever. Skaters are creatives. You go to a rap event, all the rappers there. I know all the DJs now. I know all the good music, blah, blah, blah. I go to the art shows. I'm meeting the curators. I'm meeting the owner. So I was fortunate in that way, where I had so many interests that I really cared about, that it just allowed me to meet so many people just through my interests. I would say that. But in those communities, and no ego involved, I'm a bit of a linchpin, because I would bring people together through my events. I used to throw parties. I also had a podcast back in the day called The Influencers, and shout out to my homie Leroy, who kind of put me on. It was his idea, where we would interview an Atlanta creative and then throw a party for them to celebrate who they were. And in that way, we were, again, if you build it, they will come. It's one of those things where it's just like Atlanta has a lot of that energy. People out here build a thing and the community comes and support if the thing isn't bullshit. Keep it real.
I love it.
And you'll know if it's bullshit or not because they ain't coming out if it is.
Like, it seems a little mid. I don't think I'm going to come out, bro. I ain't going to make it to this one.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I love that thing you said with the creatives, that sort of the influencers rather, where you're supporting creatives and kind of giving them space or what have you. And that's, something that I might nip that sort of idea, what have you, because this is like the front end of it, of having that conversation and giving folks sort of that space to literally, this is a 30 to 40 minute conversation where a person gets you're using the wrestling parlance, right? Get yourself over, talk about your work, talk about your thing. And, that's really what this is. And I think, having that other part to it could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? A lot of free game for people out there listening. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna need my 5%.
I love it. That's really funny.
No, hey, run with it, man. Run with it for real, because it's a great way to just bring the community together for real. So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to go into this last portion. Got some rapid fire questions for you.
All right.
So don't overthink them. Brevity is key. Shortest answer you could possibly throw out there. All right.
Let's do it.
What is the last thing you searched on YouTube?
What was the last thing I searched on YouTube? It was either some music or a skate video, honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
How many hours of sleep do you typically get?
Oh man, I'm a napper, so I'll probably sleep 5 hours and then take a nap in the day for like an hour and a half.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. What is one rapper that you would like to work with, like from a creative direction, from a visuals, from a graphic standpoint in 2023?
You said one rapper?
Yeah, one rapper.
Shit. I listen to a lot of rap, man. I'm gonna go. Honestly, this might be a little longer. Sorry. It might be Currency. And I say Currency specifically because I was supposed to interview Currency twice already. And every time it's not happened. And he doesn't know me. And I know mutual friends of his. And I'm still coming for this interview.
Currency is one of my guys. I like Currency.
I'm a fan. I've been a fan for a while, but yeah.
That's great. That is so great. It was a lot of pilot talk, a lot of covert coop, a lot of that going on at a point.
Hey.
Me and my brother used to look at each other throughout the jet.
Yeah.
It was real.
Yeah,
it was real.
Shout out to Currency for real, man. That is the hardest working rapper. High level motivation, but there's so many rappers, man. 38 Specials, one Ransom I do work for. Like I like that gully shit. So.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Let's see. From your standpoint, name an artist that made you fall in love with art as just the idea.
Ooh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Ooh. I'm thinking. Honestly, it's a lot of them, but this particular person stands out. Mike T. Artworks. He used to do all the illustrations for Echo back in the day. And I found out he was a Black artist, and it made me excited because I was like, what? Oh, word. And I emailed him one time. It was just like, yo, like, he emailed me back and I went, yeah, I can do this. You know what I mean? So that's the one person that still sticks out of my head. Yeah.
That's dope. So I got two more for you. Let's see. What is your favorite color combination? It could be, based on what you wear. It could be based on like you like these colors in terms of a palette. What's your favorite color combination?
Currently, I've been using a lot of pastel palettes, honestly. But I usually use a lot of bright colors. But these days, it's been a lot of this baby blue and this baby pink that I've been just using more and more in my work. But honestly, I dress in mostly black.
I mean, same page right now.
I'm an emo kid. So
it's like welcome to the Black Parade, guys.
but yeah, most of my color palettes have been pretty bright and/or pastels, reflecting the soul. I guess I don't know.
That's great. Here's the last one. This is the thing I've been adding in there recently. I'm very interested in the whole. What does an artist's day look like? But this is the question I'm going to take from that sort of series of questions. What did you have for breakfast?
What did I have for breakfast?
Yep.
Today, I thought we were meeting at 11:15. So far, I just had tea for breakfast. I'm a big tea drinker, but normally I'll either have cereal or I'll cook like some toast, sunny side up eggs, a little sausage, and a little spinach with some tea, and start my day like that. You know,
Like it. That's it. That's it for today. That's it.
But today is just tea. You caught me off guard.
That's great. That's great. That's great. I mean, I haven't either. I'm wrapping up a fast because I had a wild weekend. But yeah, so I want to thank you for coming on this podcast.
Is it just a juice fast?
This is a dry fast. I got nothing going on. I had a vitamin. I've had vitamins. That's it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I'm out here wilding.
Hey, well, have fun in New Orleans then.
Oh, it's gonna be lit.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm gonna wrap up again by thanking you for coming on and sharing your time and sharing your story with us. And two, I want to invite and encourage you to tell the folks where they can check you out, social media, website, all of that good stuff. The floor is yours.
Much appreciated. Well, first, I want to say thank you for reaching out and having me be a part of the show. Can't wait to hear how it all come together. And everyone can find me. I'm going to start with my portfolio site, sfahie.com. That's sfahie.com. And everything else, all my social medias is Sean Fahie, SeanFahie. And yeah, you can just find me on these streets or in sheets, baby. You know what I'm saying? Nah. Google me, baby. No. Yeah, just email me. Feel free. If you need some illustration and or design work, I do a lot of things, man. I do a lot of things. Check the website. Excuse me. I appreciate you again, Rob, for having me on.
That's great. So, again, I want to thank Sean Fahie for coming on to the podcast. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, community, design, and the homies out there in the streets and the sheets. In and around your neck of the woods, you just got to look for them.